This is the Misdirected Mark Podcast, a podcast about gaming, game mastering, and entertaining you, our listeners. We are explicit, you have been warned, and I'd like to thank Mike Willard for letting us use his music on our show. Now let's pick up those mics and get on with this thing.
All right, I've got an idea for my cyber noir character.
Me too. I've been looking over the setting notes you gave us for Cyber Twilight Metropolis.
Great. I was hoping there would be something that would catch your interests.
Yeah. So Thomas Redliner Ogoye is a hacker whose father was run out of business by the McAlliper Corporation. They're the ones who make all the illegal spyware and blackmail programs, right?
Yeah. Well, their public front is home AI management hardware and software, but yeah, McAlliper has been making backdoors into people's lives for years.
Great. They stole some of their code from my father when he was a subcontractor for them about 10 years ago. Their fiefdom program was originally his, designed to help monitor healthcare among cyber users. Then they stole the tech, sued him for copyright infringement, and bankrupted my entire family. So I want to bring the entire corporation down. But especially Masamune McAlliper. Man, McAlliper is going to bust me up. I want to see that entire corporation burn.
Yeah, I can work with all of that.
Okay.
All right, Jer?
I've got Domingo Vector 4 Wachowski. He's an up-and-coming battle ball athlete. Until my wife Natalia tried suing McAlliper for using illegal spyware to siphon funds from the food kitchen she was helping to run. McAlliper sent the cleaners to bomb our car.
Okay, yeah, that sounds just like McAlliper, all right.
I mean, we both survived, which was hospitalized for months, and I had to have several limbs and organs replaced with cybernetics. So my sports contract mysteriously got voided, and we have medical bills piling up, and so I've been taking odd jobs as a heavy, and I'm trying to work my way through enough influence and firepower. I want to bring McAlliper tumbling down as well.
All right, sounds like we probably know each other too.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. All right, now that I know how to get you both into the world, sounds like vengeance is in order.
Yeah, vengeance rampage, baby.
Oh, yeah. And with that, welcome to the 452nd episode of the Mr. Mark Podcast. Tonight, we discuss GMing and playing a vengeance hero in your role-playing games. Along the way, we'll take your comments, suggestions, and examples live from the chat room for life on Twitch before moving into the after show. But first, my name is Jerry.
My name is Phil.
And I am Old Man Logan.
I'm going to address why we're on early for our for the people who normally listen to us live that are probably now just listening to the podcast. This is just a very real world thing. We're not moving the time of the show or anything. This is a one-off thing. But my son had a chance to get hockey tickets to the Sabres and Canucks game tonight, and his mother went with him. So my daughter is at my place for the evening, and since I record in the same room where she sleeps, I need to be out of here early enough so that she can get to bed and go to school tomorrow morning, which I have to drop her off at stupid darker 30 in the morning. So yeah, we had to bump up the show, and just we're winging it. I mean, we're not winging the show, but we're doing it early. It'll be I think a little compact tonight. I may or may not make it for the after show. I have a hard timeline to hit in order to stay on the bedtime routine.
There you go.
Sounds good.
We'll be back to our normal time next week.
All right.
Yep.
And in the interest of the compact schedule, so Phil can get out and do his stuff, let's do a quick temperature check just to make sure everybody's doing well. Phil, how you feeling?
Hey, post-COVID, feeling fine. No long-term effects. Blessed be Pfizer, House Pfizer. So feel good, and I feel good, and mentally, I'm doing fine. Jerry,
I'm doing fine. I'm feeling good. Got some good sleep this weekend. I had my class last week, so I was running long, running late, getting up early, but got to crash this weekend and sleep, and so I'm feeling good today. So, Bob?
I am dealing with a little bit of neck and shoulder pain. It started creeping up on me like about a week and a half ago, or I forget when. And it's been off and on. But other than that, feeling pretty good. Mentally feeling pretty good. Nothing really Nothing really dragging me down at the moment, and new Minecraft season helped, so things like that. So, all right. So let's jump in to the one thing. My one thing for this week is I have been working my way through Community Season 1, which is now finished. I'm into Season 2, but I hit, of course, the first paintball episode, like 2 or 3 episodes before the end of Season 1. Oh my God, that episode is ridiculous. The tropes that they played with and the homages to Die Hard and other things. There was a John Woo reference in there. It was glorious. It was so wild. I was very pleased. And if they play with the paintball, the future paintball episodes like that, I'm definitely going to enjoy those.
You are starting to see the beginnings of the footprints of what is Rick and Morty with those paintball episodes. Their directing skills, and you're seeing the origins of the MCU there too.
Yeah,
I'm so good.
Good stuff.
Yep.
All right,
Good
Jerry,
show.
what's your one thing?
Well, after discussing it a couple times, I decided, you know what? I've seen bits and pieces of episodes of the show Psych, and it's on Peacock for free. So I figured, I'll start watching it. I've been enjoying it. I've only skipped one episode so far. There's an episode where they go undercover at a Comic-Con, and after the first 5 minutes where there's just a relentless insulting attack on nerds by just about damn near everybody, including the 2 protagonists, I said it's gonna be one of those episodes, and skipped it. It's kind of like when you watch the episode of Castle where they get into role-playing games, or any of the episodes of most shows except maybe CSI where they deal with the BDSM community, and it's basically, they don't know what they're talking about and they're just gonna make it the butt of the joke. I'm like, that's not the time to watch. So I skipped that one. But the rest of them have been really good. I like a show about a smart character who has faults.
Yep.
And isn't super smarmy. And that's the fun of it. They're both, the main characters are all kind of fun. It's a comedy, really.
Yeah. And honestly, you will enjoy the relationship between Sean and Gus.
Yes.
As it grows throughout the show. Their chemistry is remarkable right out of the gate, but it's so good. By the time you get to the end, you've been on a ride. It's so much fun.
What we're already seeing is that his father isn't quite the villain that he makes him out to be, but also that part of that, his father was brutal and conniving, but wasn't quite as bad as it starts out. You think his father was this horrible dad, and he really wasn't.
No,
but he wasn't. He also wasn't super supportive. Yeah. But you see that Gus is the reason that Sean made it through childhood. Yeah. Just in the first 8 episodes, the amount of flashback stuff where you see young Gus just being this supportive, loving, bro to him all the time, and I mean that like brother is good. So anyway, that was a good show. Yeah. I'm enjoying it. Phil?
Yeah, my one thing's going to be the kickoff of the new Minecraft season. We had a mod pack, so we had a pretty big update. Actually, we moved from not to get too deep into this, but we were in version 1.12. We've moved up to version 1.16, which means we've passed some significant milestones in terms of Minecraft upgrades. But it also shook everything up because not all of our mods that were pretty tried and true mods for us for season after season. We had to give a lot of those up. Not all of them. A number of our favorites all made it through, but a lot of them didn't. And so we are plunged into a game that has some new elements without some of our normal comforts. But we're all back in and playing again, and I really enjoy it. Like the beginning part of the I always enjoy this beginning part where everybody's together. History is shown over time. Some people will drop off over time and things like that. But I'm kind of excited because I did the primary testing for this mod pack, but I've yet to test it past the point of where I am right now. Mm-hmm. Like I've always gotten up to about this point in the game and then had to ditch my world and keep so I'm actually looking forward to it because a couple of the mods have some real depth to them. and I can't wait to actually like dive in and build some of the really really bonkers stuff. There's some things in the higher end of mech that aren't actually worth individually building, that we could actually group build because of how intense some of that stuff is going to be. Like the antimatter reactor is spectacularly complicated. I watched a YouTube video about it.
Nice.
It's a thing that a number of us could actually start harvesting resources and working on, like late game.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I'm interested in that, as long as we don't get another too many nuclear reactors problem. Then we're good.
No, we build this thing, I don't think we'll need another reactor. But I actually just want to build it for the sake of building it.
Yeah,
like
just because.
I want to build through that entire mod pack, because there's a lot of stuff in there. There's mechanized armor. There's all sorts of stuff. So I'm very vested in getting deep into that pack after I get kind of established. Anyway, so anyway, I'm excited. It's fun having everybody there and kind of seeing some of the mods, having you guys see some of the mods that you hadn't seen before, like waystones and stuff like that.
Cool.
So
awesome.
Cool.
All right. No announcements today. So let's jump into our bumper for the lab segment. There we go. Little bubbling tubes and stuff.
At some point, we'll need to make one for the background check, like some sort of like ticker tape machine kind of
Sounds good.
kind of thing. So I don't know, something like that. Well, at some point, need to make something for that. But we're running it out of the lab for now, so
it's okay. The lab's a good place to start. Because let's face it, it was bound to happen. After doing our first background check, we knew we'd want to do another one, and so here we are back in the lab. And tonight we're going to look at the Vengeful hero. And as we always do in the background check, we're going to talk about what makes up this background, how to get the best backstory, what kind of story arc this creates, pitfalls, and some tips for playing it well without disrupting the game.
Yep. All right, and of course, like most of our other segments, we're going to start with some definitions. So let's do this one.
Behold, you are in the presence of Definition Panda.
We start our definitions tonight with the keyword for tonight, vengeful, meaning seeking to harm someone in return for a perceived injury. So there are a few things we can kind of pull out of this definition. One, there was an injury, perceived or real. For the sake of our character tonight, let's make it real, but it could be perceived, right? Like you could have somebody vengeful for, something that they think that happened. But our injury, right? That could have happened directly to the vengeful person, right? The character that we're building, or it could have happened to someone they care about, a loved one, a mentor, those kinds of things. And by injury, that injury could be, obviously physical, but it could be social, like the fall in standings, right? Like somebody who was, lost, like lost honor or whatever, and like now is seeking vengeance. It could be financial, right? They were cleaned out of money. Could be relationship, right? Based, like something happened with a family member, a loved one, or whatever, right? So that injury is broad, right? It doesn't have to just be physical. And just like in our example, right? In our example, Bob's character was cleaned out financially. Jerry's character and his wife were both harmed physically. So, okay, cool. The vengeful person is seeking to do harm by way of recompense, right? They're paying back that injury by doing harm to the person or persons they believe have committed the injury. And in terms of harm, we can also use this in a very broad sense, right? The most obvious is just to hurt someone, be it physical, but it could also be financially. And then like we can really broaden that term out to be like ruin their business, get them arrested, put them in jail, or it could be more practical, like shove them out an airlock or push them into an antimatter reactor. Like we got latitude. in terms of both injury and in terms of harm.
So in tabletop role-playing games, this background is going to be the one where the character or someone the character cares about was harmed by something, whether it was an NPC that harmed them, or an organization, a monster, God, force of nature, whatever. And now they work to deliver this recompense. This is the character who differs from somebody who's righteous, because the righteous character does things because it's morally right and virtuous. Vengeful heroes are very rarely morally right and virtuous.
Yeah, in fact, actually, a cool pairing is the vengeful hero and the righteous hero, who are actually fighting for who are fighting against the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The righteous one is doing it because it's the right thing to do, right? I'm the paladin. This is evil. We must do it. And the vengeful hero is like, they harmed me. I'm going to put them in the ground, that kind of thing. And then you have some great tension between those two characters based on approach. Anyway, that's just a thought that popped into my head while we were talking about it. By way of quick review, we need to also talk about two terms that came up a few episodes ago when we did the Fallen Hero edition of the Adversary Files. And the first one is the anti-hero, is the main character in a story who lacks conventional heroic qualities and attributes such as idealism, courage, and morality. Although anti-heroes may sometimes perform actions that are morally correct, it is not always for the right reasons, often acting primarily out of self-interest or in ways that defy conventional ethic codes. The next term I want to bring up is the vigilante, a member of a self-appointed group of citizens who undertake law enforcement in their community without legal authority, typically because the legal agencies are thought to be inadequate. The vengeful hero can be one or both of those things, or neither, right? But there's a lot of overlap with the vengeful hero and the anti-hero, the vengeful hero and the vigilante.
So let's give some examples from media of the vengeful heroes.
So many examples.
But here's just a few. First of all, Jason Bourne in The Bourne Supremacy and Bourne Ultimatum. You got Frank Castle in The Punisher. Eric Draven from The Crow. John Wick in, John Wick and the rest of them. The Wraith, the character from the Charlie Sheen Ghost Car movie. Batman is a vengeful hero. Paul Kersey, the main character from Death Wish, is a vengeful hero. The Stranger from High Plains Drifter. And, of course, John Matrix from Commando.
Of course. I like that you're like, of course, John Matrix from Commando.
Yes.
Like, that's such an obscure... I guess it's not obscure if you're old like us.
I had to look up who John Matrix is when you put him in the notes.
Let's put it this way. If you're like, oh, yes, John Matrix from Commando, then you probably, need to take some Advil for your back. Right.
Yeah. Never actually seen that movie all the way through.
Well, what? You've never seen the ending of Commando?
I've seen bits and pieces. I may have seen the ending of it. I've seen bits and pieces. It was during that phase when I did not catch a lot of those.
Oh, Bob.
I did not see a lot of the Schwarzenegger movies and none of the Stallone movies.
Oh, Bob. I see we have our work cut out for us.
I've never seen a Rambo movie. A Rocky movie.
Okay, well, there are some. Okay, so there's definitely some things we need. First of all, First Blood is great. The other ones are pretty cheesy. First Blood I actually think is fantastic. The other ones are less and less bound to realism. But anyway, we can definitely future address that issue because as a teenager, I consumed a steady diet of bad action movies. So I'm well versed in all of these. Okay, anyway.
All right. So now that we have an idea of who the vengeful hero is, Jerry, can we talk about what we would put into their backstory?
All right. Well, in order to build a strong backstory for the vengeful hero, we're going to need to start by understanding who or what was injured. So after you get done establishing the basics of your character, you need to first by making a decision. Were we the ones who were directly harmed, or was it someone or something that we cared about that was harmed? And knowing that we can expand with this with a few more questions, we start out with things like, who did the harm? Why was it done? What was the harm that was done? And what was the outcome of that harm? Was it injury, death, destruction? Was it a bunch of mean girls who put you down in school? Whatever it is, what was the outcome of that harm?
Yeah. So then we'll need to, from building off of that, we'll need to expand on some of those details about who did the harm, right? Is it a person? Is it an organization, right? A cabal, whatever. And how much does our hero know about the organization, like at the start, right? Do they know, like, do they know a person that's part of it? Do they know the whole organization, etc.? What's this organization, group, or whatever ultimate goal? Like, does it have a goal? Is it a conspiracy? Is it just a mindless monster? Like the Tarrasque killed my family. Like, now I need to just go like find it. I don't know if the Tarrasque is mindless or not. Don't jump all over me, D&D people, but whatever, you get my point. Why did they need to harm, whoever was harmed, right? Was it a message? Was it to eliminate a witness, right? Like there must random is a terrible reason, right? Like there should be a reason for it.
Yep.
What is that organization or person doing now? Like they did whatever harm. Are they like just back tooling around in their lives? Like, did they forget who you are? Like that kind of thing. Do they even know if the character's seeking vengeance? Like, do they think you're dead? Do they think that like, oh, they got the message, they'll leave a lot, they'll leave enough alone? Yep. Are they so big that they don't even perceive you as a threat? Like much like the cyber example we were using in the opening, like the two characters that we're talking about, like, does the corporation even care if you're like out there plotting vengeance? They're monolithic, right? Like until you do some damage, they're just like, whatever. Tons of people hate us.
I was gonna say they don't care now, but they're going to.
Exactly. Right. We're establishing our baseline here for the background. Yeah.
Right. And then we need to figure out more about what the hero is doing now. Does anybody else know about the harm that was done? What methods or how far is the hero willing to go to get their vengeance? What's their limit? And what is the final vengeance going to look like for the hero? There should be an end game in place. What's it going to look like when you bring the building down or whatever?
In the immortal words of the author of Getting Things Done, what does done look like?
Yeah.
What does done look like when this is all said and done? Are you standing on the ruins of a building? Are you holding the head of the CEO of the company? What is it?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So those are all great questions, and they're going to generate a lot of hooks. So all good stuff. Phil, what kind of story arcs are GMs going to be able to run with this background?
Right. So the biggest arc that the GM has to address, right, and has to address, not optional for this background, is the arc where the hero exacts their vengeance on the person, organization, whatever, who did the harm. As the GM, right, whoever did this harm is now a major NPC in your game. Whether you were intending for it or not, they are now. So you're going to need to build a story arc that, and it may be many story arcs or it may be subplots or whatever, but you're going to need to build a structure by which the character can work their way to their ultimate vengeance. And you don't want to serve this thing up like within the first couple of sessions, right? This is long term. This is long play. It could be the main plot of your whole campaign. It could be your main story arc in the first, like for the first story arc. Or, you can push it down to a secondary character arc that you have threaded through, throughout the campaign. But one way or another, you're going to have to plot out something that has them working their way up the vengeance ladder, right? They're going to need to find their way into the organization. They're going to need to make some early strikes to hurt the organization. The organization's going to hit back, right? Like once you've done a significant amount of damage, like assassins come for you. There's going to be twists and setbacks and all that stuff. And you need to get all of that in there, right? Like that is like non-optional. You are basically negating this character's purpose if you do not pack this into your campaign. So as a GM, let me say this. If you already have something plotted out, like say you're one of those GMs who wants to, play through a particular story, and you think that this is going to be too disruptive, and that you can't find a way to work the vengeance thing into what you already have, right? Like if you can work it into what you already have, that's great, because then you just gave the character a reason to make it to the end of your existing arc. But if this like bolted on piece is going to drag into your game, this may not be the best background to let a player play. Because if you're going to let a player play this character, you have to do this arc.
You got to pay.
And you have to finish this arc. If the campaign finishes, if it ends early for any reason, that's one thing. But if the campaign finishes, you have to also finish this arc. Yep. Not optional.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Aside from that, a little preachy tonight. Aside from that arc, here's some other things that you can work in into your other arcs, background stories, etc.
Right. First, you can start with someone who's landed the hero, who is harmed and is trouble, and now needs your help as one of the story arcs.
Mm-hmm. Someone tries to talk you out of your vengeance, worried that it will consume you or get you killed. That's always a good dramatic scene.
Mm-hmm. The group that did this harm in the first place is now using their influence to ruin some plan or relationship that the character or the entire party is establishing. This is a good way to get the entire party kind of in on that vengeance arc.
Sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
During the adventure, there's a chance to extract some vengeance on the enemy who did you harm, but at the expense of successfully completing the mission, getting the MacGuffin, etc. Right? This is the difficult choice. Like, do you chase your vengeance or do you finish what you set out to do?
Maybe a member of the group that did harm has decided to reform. Can your character trust them? Or worse, can your character even forgive them in the first place?
Yeah, exactly. You fall in love with someone only to discover they're part of the group that you're seeking vengeance against.
Oh,
the messy drama.
Of course. That's always good.
Yep. So there's plenty of potential plot hooks there for the GM to work with. So as we move along, Jerry, what are the pitfalls that we could run into with this background?
All right. With this kind of background, there's a bunch of little things the player and the GM need to look out for. The first is you want to be careful and don't make this about being racist in your background story. What we mean by that is when you determine who did the harm and who needs the vengeance, avoid making it a species, a socioeconomic group, or a race or whatever. Avoid that 80s trope of, my family was killed by orcs, so I hate all orcs. That's racist as all get out and go. It's also really sloppy background writing and kind of uninspired. It doesn't really give you or the GM anything creative to work with, or at least less to work with. So instead, pick something like an individual, an organization, a clique, something that's not all one group, one species, etc. It can be based on choices and actions, not based on birth or belief systems.
100%.
Yep.
100%. And yes, that is sloppy. Like you can do much better.
Yes.
Okay. Next up, your character is not evil. You are a vengeful hero, right? So don't be evil. Yes, you are seeking vengeance, but make sure that you have a discussion with your group on what you will and what they're comfortable with what you will do and how far you're willing to go for vengeance, right? We need to talk about things like prisoners, torture, killing. Like these are things that you have to work through with the group, because otherwise you could derail a session when, you know, all of a sudden somebody from that organization surrenders to you. What do you do?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If your group hasn't had this discussion about boundaries or whatever, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to waste them. Right. And now all of a sudden players like left and right are like, wait, you can't waste him. He surrendered. Right. Like, and then you've derailed the whole game. Have this discussion, have boundaries on what your character will do. It always works best if you could like turn them over to authorities, right? Like if a person surrenders, you know, we're turning them over to the authorities or whatever. But work this out, have expectations and boundaries set on this. Otherwise, you will have some in-game drama. And honestly, I have, this is the kind of in-game drama that could easily move to PvP if it goes too far.
Now, it is okay to decide ahead of time what that choice is going to be and have the characters play out that first choice in game as long as everybody's on board. And you can have the characters come close to blows as long as the players all know this is how you're establishing that drama.
100%.
But you have to have all those boundaries in place ahead of time.
Yeah. This is not a thing you want to like figure out on the fly.
Sure.
I mean, I've seen these kinds of things. Like, I always joke that I don't even joke, right? The greatest test of how good a party is the goblin baby, right? Yep. The goblin baby test is a guaranteed way to check how quote good a party is. But yeah, you gotta have the discussions about this. You gotta set the boundaries. You'll just F up the game if you don't. Mm-hmm. All right, what's our next one, Jer?
Well, you want to make sure that you don't have anybody betray or ditch the group. And this goes right with the one above, but depending on your group, ditching the group to go after something to further your vengeance could go over very poorly, and betraying your group more so. You want to work this out in advance with the group so it doesn't blow up the table. Have everybody discussing what's going on with the group. Have everybody discuss, what's going to happen when something comes up that one of the players may want to run off and do on their own.
Well, it's not one of the players. This is the vengeful player. Right?
Yeah, the vengeful player. Yes, the vengeful player wants to go off and do something on their own because of their vengeance. Is the group going to deal with that? Is it going to mess things up? And as a GM, you got to be aware of this also. If you put the vengeful player in this position too often, then they might sometime pick that option, which can mess up things for everybody else, especially if it's being put in front of them all the time. So it's okay to tempt the vengeance player, but don't overdo it to the point where it seems out of place for them not to take that choice.
Yeah, especially if the group is like, we'd be really pissed off if you ditched or betrayed us, right? Like don't set up the impossible situation. Mm-hmm. If the group is like, no, we understand, like, of course, given the opportunity, you'd run off and do it or whatever. Like that might work. But I mean, think about it. If your mainline fighter in the middle of a dungeon runs off because they see the marking of an evil god, and the rest of you are now getting pounded by owl bears without your mainline fighter, and none of this has been discussed up front, you're going to be pissed.
Yep.
Like if you live through it, you're going to be pissed. Okay. Last thing, this is a tip that goes directly to the player who's playing the vengeful hero. Avoid obsessing on your vengeance, right? While your vengeance is going to be a main part of your character, it is one part of your background, and it may not be everyone's background or priority, right? Just because you need to get rid of, the god of smite or whatever, doesn't mean that that's what everyone else signed on for. You still need to be a good team player. You need to work with the group. You need to help advance the group objectives, and then also find time for your vengeance. And this is also a thing that you can have your character talk to the group about, right? You can say something like, okay, look, we're going to clear this dungeon out, but afterwards you guys got to help me find this acolyte. I need to do this, right? Mm-hmm. Like you can work that in, but just don't be like at all times, like, hey, hey, Bob, how are you doing? And just sharpening your sword. Like, I'm waiting for my vengeance, right? Like it works in The Crow. Yeah. Right? Because like it's a 2-hour movie, like, but it's not going to work in a campaign if like literally all you do is like, I sit around sharpening my sword, plotting my revenge against my enemy every day.
Yeah.
And let's face it, The Crow is a single character and he's not all that deep.
No, not at all. Right. The whole premise of the thing isn't that deep. It's just, it works.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's fun. It's a fun movie, but yeah.
Absolutely. Love it.
Okay.
Almost time to watch it.
Yeah. So before we break, Phil, do we have tips for playing this background and getting the most out of it?
I mean, of course we do.
That's why we're here.
That's why we're here. That's me setting up a very clumsy transition. Of course we do. It should be like, Phil, of course we have some tips for playing this background. You are correct, Bob. All right. One big thing you need to think about. It's not a thing you need to answer right away, but you need to think about it is, what does this character do when it's all over? Mm-hmm. The search for vengeance is eventually going to end. And assuming you live through it, right? Assuming that you live through the vengeance, is this character still a viable character concept when they no longer need to seek vengeance? Maybe they're not, right? So maybe like once they get vengeance, they're going to just go retire, right? This character is done, rides off into the sunset. Maybe they don't even live through the encounter, right? Like that kind of thing, but they're done. Or maybe in their quest to gain vengeance, they have also found a new purpose in life, right? Yeah. And so that once they close the door on this vengeance, they can now move on to something else. Yep. And that's going to be important because depending on, and this might require a little work with your GM, depending on what your plan is for the character, and depending on whether you want to play another character in the campaign, the GM needs to kind of know where to put the end of this vengeance arc, right? Like if your plan is like, look, when I finally kill the god of smite, I'm going to get a farm and retire. Push that towards the end of the campaign, right? But if like all of a sudden through play, your character is like, I've been pounding out all these acolytes and like getting rid of all these guys and like, killing my way up the chain. And as it turns out, like, I think when this is done, like I might like try to repent and become like a paladin or something. You could move the vengeance up, right? And give the character like, and close that chapter and move on to the next one. So it's a thing that is worth as a player thinking about, and not that I think you need to have the answer the day you hit the table, because you're not getting your vengeance in session 1. And if you are, what is wrong with you, GM? But at some point, you and your GM should have a talk about kind of what happens next and where the end game for this vengeance needs to take place. Okay. Other things for playing well is to avoid all the pitfalls we said above. But then there are actually a few things that we came up with that you can interject into the game. And we have creatively named them from quotes from other movies about vengeance heroes. I think most of them are vengeance heroes. I think one of them, the second one, is definitely not a vengeance hero. But
yeah, I was wondering how that's a vengeance hero.
You know what? I don't know if that character is, but I think another character in that movie could be considered a vengeance hero. Yes. But anyway, I think it'd be fun if we also, well, I don't know, let's just do the quotes. People will figure out the movies.
Yes. So the first one, hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. So you want to spend your pop points when you're closing on someone who deserves your vengeance, so that you look extra badass. You basically want to get ready for this final fight, get things together, let the player know as the GM that we're getting close to this, so they have the things they need to make it an epic battle. You don't want to have the thing where they show up and either get horribly slaughtered initially, or the battle just is not that exciting.
Yeah, I mean, this is the time to spend your bennies, right? Like, spend them big.
Yep.
Okay. The next one is I will live in Montana. Do we all know where that's from?
I do.
Yeah,
I do too.
Okay.
That's why I said he's not the vengeance hero.
No, he's not the vengeance hero in that. During slow periods, talk to your fellow characters or an NPC about what you would like to do when your revenge is complete. For our chat room listeners, that is Hunt for Red October. Oh, very good. Thanks, Bob.
That's why I'm here.
All right, next one.
Remember when I said I'd kill you last? I actually know what that's from. I've seen that part. That is from Commando. Basically, display a bit of your dark side when you promise to show mercy, and then take that mercy away. Just assuming that you have consent for that for the rest of the players.
Exactly. Can't rain all the time. Reference back to The Crow. Being a vengeful hero can be a bit of a downer from time to time. So as a break from that, do a scene where you're enjoying life or having a lighter moment.
I'm taking on back from John Wick. Talk to someone about how you're going to continue on after your vengeance is done. Discuss with somebody. Have some role-playing encounters.
I told you people to leave us alone. Anybody?
It's Bourne.
That's Bourne, yeah. Have a scene with the people you are seeking vengeance on about how you didn't want any of this and how it's their fault that all of this is happening.
And you'd be a great Dread Pirate Roberts. Maybe take over the organization that you have vengeance against and redirect its efforts towards less villainous objectives.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's our take on the Vengeful Hero. So we're going to take a break here and check with the chat room. But first, Bob, tell us about another show on the Misdirected Mark Network.
Yes, I think you should all go and check out Bonus Experience. Ray and Monica are two old friends exploring gameplay and design through the lens of diversity, while also sharing some of the dumbest humor gaming has to offer. I never get tired of that. That's a great blurb. All right.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
all right.
Jared Rasher's in the chat room. And he mentioned that at least several versions of Batman's story don't have him running into Joe Chill for years. So he's already been invested in making Gotham better as his primary motivator. And to be honest, like I know Batman from way back, but I was never like that deep into this stuff. Like I have no idea who Joe Chill is. No clue. Apparently he's the dude that killed his parents. But like
I got that from context, but I don't think I ever knew it by name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he also mentioned earlier the name of the gangster that had Dick Grayson's parents killed. And I'm like, I didn't know that either. I'm like, okay. The things you learn.
Isn't Joe Chill also now the name he uses when he's like a gangster? Isn't that his cover now in some of the Batman comics?
I have no idea.
I could be wrong on that.
No, that's interesting. That'd be great. Takes up the guy's name.
Jared says that's Matches Malone.
Oh, Matches.
That's one of them. Yeah, that's true.
I forget what's Logan's name when he's in Maripol. Patch, right?
Or some variation of Patch. Like nobody
Patch
knows that's Wolverine. Come on.
Have you seen
one
this
of the
hair?
most recognizable dudes? He's got that hair.
Who else has this hair? Anyway,
it's the Clark Kent glasses thing. As soon as he puts a patch on, nobody looks at the hair anymore. Yeah. So
I always liked that in DC Heroes, the game DC Heroes, the glasses had a power. They had like Hypnosis 15, and there's a reason why people couldn't put it together. Was because they actually didn't see him as
there's a
Superman wearing
suggestion
glasses.
that makes people think that they saw somebody completely different looking than actual Clark Kent. Yeah.
Well, there are real life stories of both Christopher Reeve and who's the one who's playing him now? The one who played the Witcher guy. Yeah, of both of them, like on the set of the movie, going out into the town and people not recognizing them. Like Christopher Reeve, like dressing like Clark Kent and going out to lunch, and nobody realized it was Christopher Reeve. But if he went out with the glasses out and the hair slicked back, they recognized him. And Henry Cavill walking around in Times Square, having people take selfies of him in front of the Superman posters, and nobody realized who it was that was there because he was just Henry Cavill at that point. So I could see that.
See, you can't pull that shit on me. I'm a face guy. I recognize faces, and I'm like, I know that motherfucker.
Dude, you're ridiculous. Seriously, if superheroes existed in our world, you would totally you would have outed like most of them by now.
Or I would.
Bob's the guy who's like, when you're watching a movie, he's like, you see that guy in the background, the one holding the beer. Yeah, that guy. He was in Cannonball Run. He was like the co-pilot of like the third car. Like you're like, what?
Yeah, I love that.
Like the dean of the community college in Community. He was the MIT guy at the beginning of Civil War that had the idea that he was pitching to Tony about the self-cooking hot dog.
Right. Well, yeah, that's deliberate.
Yeah,
because that was a Russo. That was a Russo.
Yeah, that's the Russos.
But yes, that is true. That's
But yes,
that's one of my favorite early jokes was the one where it's got was it Lois Lane, and she's got a picture of Superman. And she puts it on Facebook, and Facebook says, "Do you want to tag Clark Kent?" Yeah, because of the Facebook. Yeah,
that's funny.
Those are fun.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. There it is, right there. Yeah. I just said it, and here, Andy just put it in the post. So yes, same one.
All right.
God.
Well, let's jump back into the topic and go into our roundtable question section, starting with this one, Phil.
Yeah, name a vengeful hero you've enjoyed in media and one you've enjoyed in a game.
In media, I'm going to pick kind of one of the obvious ones. You gotta love Inigo Montoya from The Princess Bride. He was a vengeful hero. He was willing to do just about anything to get the six-fingered man. He almost allowed his friends to get in trouble because of it, but eventually gave that up to help his friends. But yeah, it worked. It was just a good character overall, and a good template of how to run that character in a group without disrupting the group.
I think
several times he has a choice. Go ahead.
I think as a kid, Inigo Montoya was like my first favorite vengeful hero.
Yeah.
Like he's charming. He has like, and the story, like like, you know, when he tells the story of what happened, like, I don't know, like, I remember just like, I love Inigo Montoya's character. I mean, of course I loved his character, but it's definitely proof that, you do not have to be hard or bitter to be a vengeful hero.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's also a good example of the player spending their points in the climactic moments to make the fight against the six-fingered man epic. It's like, oh, he's going to stab me. Oh, no.
Exactly, right?
I want my father back, you son of a bitch.
Yep.
In game, I think that probably my favorite, I will talk about in the after show, but probably my favorite one, the Vault Dweller in Fallout 4. The main character you play in Fallout 4 is basically on a quest to bring down those, no spoilers, you get frozen with your spouse and your child, and they come in, they wake you up, realize that you're not the one they're looking for, wake your spouse up, take your child, and when your spouse tries to stop them, they kill your spouse. And then you get frozen again for another 100 years. And so when you come out, you are pretty much on a vengeance path to go find your child and bring bullet-laden mayhem on the people who took your child and killed your spouse. And there's lots of other things along the way. By the time you finally get your child, actually, that quest has become supplanted by several other more, hopefully more altruistic goals. I mean, it's Fallout, you can do whatever you want. But it's still, it's basically a vengeance path that can be a lot of fun to play. It gives you a reason to go after the bad guys. When it finally happens, it could be a lot of fun. Just make sure you've got a lot of ammo with you. So, and in the after show, I'll talk about a different character I played in a role-playing game that was vengeance-oriented that didn't start that way. And how we had to kind of tone it back afterwards. So, Bob?
Yeah, so as far as media goes, my favorite one, Phil already had picked, and I'm like, that's cool. So I'm going to go with the backup, and that is The Crow. Eric Draven. That movie.
Ultimate 90s sad boy.
Yeah. So much emo. But yeah, that movie did a lot of things. But that character, just like, you know, they killed me and my girlfriend, and I come back a year later, and I'm going to get my revenge. So yeah, love the implementation of that. And of course, you know, Brandon Lee was at the height of his popularity and would have been a huge friggin' star after that if they wouldn't have killed him on set.
Oh, I mean, a very tragic story.
Very tragic,
yes.
But you know. And as far as games go, I never really, you know, like every character I play in any video game that I play, like in Minecraft, in Valheim, they're all vengeance heroes, because one of those monsters sneaks up and bites me in the ass, and I'm like, oh, motherfucker, you're going to die for that.
I have been wronged.
Yes.
This Enderman is going down. Yeah. From media, I did, like I said, I picked the one that Bob was also my top pick, John Wick. I love the way the story starts. He's out. He's living, like, first of all, he leaves out of love. He suffers a great tragedy, right? Loses his wife. He's still out of he's just trying to stay out of it, right? He gets the dog. It's adorable, right? And then, like, that world crashes back into his and takes the last thing he loves, And then he's like, and it's the scene for me. Like the whole John Wick thing starts with, it's just the scene. Like first he's in the shower, right, trying to calm himself down after what's happened, cleans himself up, and then he goes to the basement, and it, like very metaphorical, right? He breaks through the basement floor to find all the remnants of his old life.
Yep.
And then just in contrast to that, you've got the Russian mobster trying to explain to his son, like, what you like, look what you have done, right?
Yeah.
Like,
you have no idea who you just fucked with.
right. Like, we are all dead. Like, and he's just like, he is in that first movie, he is single purpose, right? He is just all about vengeance. And relentless in doing so.
Yep.
So yeah, that was my choice. I didn't have a game one. I don't know if I've ever played a Vengeful Hero. Like I don't think I've ever done it before. So I was trying to think about it. But I honestly just couldn't come up with a good one. So I mean, there are some video game ones, but I don't think I like the character from Far Cry, but I don't love that character or anything. I just liked the original game. Like, I don't know. I didn't have anyone that really resonated with me. All right.
Okay.
Question
All
2.
right. Okay, number 2. What challenges would you have playing this background, Bob?
Yeah, for me, that would be not letting it bleed too much. Because I will get emotionally invested in this character arc. Like, you know, you wronged him, especially if they killed someone he loved. Like that will dig into me and bleed will start to happen. So it would be like, you know, let's keep it level. Don't let the bleed take over. A little bleed's good, but you don't want it to consume you. And I will be one of those people that will let the bleed go and go and go and go and be like, whoa, wait a minute.
I'm just going to push these feelings down, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see, I can see that, right? I can totally see where you could get some bleed from this, especially if you just kind of open yourself up a little and just try to empathize a little with this character.
Yep. What about you, Phil?
Mine would be, it would definitely be as a player, right? My real challenge to this would be balancing doing the other stuff. I think we all know I'm not a person who lets projects slide, right? So I would be very much like, well, this character is going to need to get revenge. And by revenge, I mean, I've got a 10-point plan here for how to bring this thing to its knees. I'm going to need to get on this right away, right? Like it would definitely be a challenge for me not to try to railroad the vengeance into every session, right? Like it would, and rather let it be that background story arc. Like that would definitely be a challenge for me as a player.
Mm-hmm. And that is definitely a big thing. You have to definitely make sure that you're not just focusing your entire character on just getting revenge.
Yeah. Be very one note on that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of aggressive monotasking, right? Like
there you
go. How about you, Jer?
For me, it's going to be making sure that I include the rest of the heroes in the story and finding a good redemption arc. Sometimes it becomes a thing where you've got an obsession and you have to make sure you bring the player characters in. That was the TFT thing. I had an obsession and a vengeance and a person that I wanted to bring down and destroy, and the rest of the party was not on board with that at all. In fact, some of them kind of consider that other person to be their friend. And it was tough to play that character. So when I do a vengeance hero, I want to always make sure that I talk to the rest of the players and make sure that they're on board with this, and also like have some sort of redemption arc, have some sort of point where you're no longer just this rage-filled kill monster. What is it going to be that brings you back along? Or is this going to be the thing where I decide that I want to go out with a blaze of glory and, you know, I want to bring down the McAllister Corporation by dropping it to the ground as a skyscraper while I'm standing on top of it, strangling the bad guy as we both plummet to our deaths, you know, that kind of thing. that might be the redemption arc. But generally, I prefer a better redemption arc than that. And that'd be a good way to end the campaign.
Yeah,
I would, there's that saying that, when you seek revenge, dig two graves.
yeah,
Yes.
Right. Like, that is a thing about this background. Like,
yep.
And you could plan it that way, right? You could very much plan like I'm going out in a blaze of glory. So,
yep.
Like my end game for this is I'm going to go fight, Baron von Badass, but I'm also going to pack myself with 20 pounds of plastic explosives so that one way or another, Baron von Badass isn't leaving the chamber.
Yeah, BVB's going down.
Yeah.
I would also like to state that Rage-Filled Kill Monster is my death metal band name.
Rage Kill Phil Monster?
Rage-Filled Kill Monster.
Oh, Rage-Filled Kill Monster, yes. Yeah.
My favorite follow-up to that was because it's actually killed in a game. One of my players was the infamous, if you plan for revenge to dig two graves, and he turned and said, "Oh, I plan on killing a lot more than just two people."
Yeah,
that's good.
I'm like, that's the answer. That's the answer.
All right.
Yep.
All right.
So that brings us to question number 3. What challenges would you have GMing a player with this background?
I think the first one we talked about this for sure. Right. It's about boundaries. We need to have boundaries about how dark is this vengeful character going to go. Are we going like full John Wick Crow dark? Are we going Inigo Montoya? Like, we're going to need to have some discussions about it because it's going to depend on a lot of factors, right? It's going to depend on the group. It's going to depend on the story, and it's going to depend on the game, right? Like if we're playing Cartel and you tell me you want to play a vengeful character that's like looking to, murder the whole cartel, I'm as long as the players are on board, I'm green lighting that plan, right? Like that's a very Cartel thing. Like it would totally play out well in a Cartel game. But if you're like, we're playing a Star Wars game, and I want to be like this totally dark, vengeful character, then I don't know, like we're going to have to work it out. Let me pause. I'm going to pause for a second, step away. Jerry, talk about yours for a second. I'll be right back.
Sure. Yep. For me, it's going to be finding ways to include the enemy of the vengeful character into the story without making it overwhelm the rest of the plot. Because it's very easy to make that the focus of the plot, and then all of a sudden that campaign just becomes about that one player's character. And that's not something you necessarily want to do unless the rest of the party's on board with that. So you want to make sure that you find a way to include that enemy. And if they're not going to be the main focus of the plot and the main villain, you don't want to have them show up too often, but you want to have them show up often enough that it's important for the character who has that problem. And this is why it's often good to tie the player characters together and give them reasons to go after the vengeful enemy. And sometimes that works. Curse of the Crimson Throne, the second Pathfinder adventure, actually has that as a character arc at the beginning that gets resolved by the end of the first campaign, by the end of the first story arc, where all the player characters are brought together because they have an enemy that's in the city. They take that enemy out at the end of the first adventure, and then the big stuff starts. So that was pretty much it. So, well, Phil's not back yet, so we'll just keep going with this.
Yep.
That is our second entry in the background check series. We hope that next time you're looking for a character concept, you might find this one appealing and have fun playing with it.
All right. And now let's check in with the chat room one last time before we head off to the conversation corner. So, chat room, I'm just catching up.
Jared's most recent comment is good.
There you go. Yeah, Jared said if you reach a session where it comes to a head, you can't really run that session until they're available. And having a specific player-dependent adventure can be a scheduling nightmare. That is classic.
God, yes.
Like, their story arc is all dependent on that guy's character. And that person can't make it this week. Well, now everything's all screwed up. It's like,
are you talking about this topic, or are you talking about next week's topic?
Well, that's what derailed my Star Wars campaign, was that I'd set up a story arc where we ended the adventure on a cliffhanger where, not really a cliffhanger, but basically we were about to start the next story arc, which involved one of the player characters and their main story arc. And they had just gotten the information that led them to, we were going to go talk to somebody and get the next story arc going. And then that player was not available for like 6 months.
Yeah.
And that pretty much, and it just did not make sense that we would skip that next section because it was the next key. So we put everything on hold for a while and we never got back to it. So yeah, that'll happen.
The reason we played Dungeon World was because Chris was running a Numenera game and did this thing where he bound all our characters together so that they couldn't drift too far apart from each other without there being like damage and detrimental problems. And like the next week, one of the players had a family issue and couldn't come back to the game, like for an unknown amount of time. And we shelved and never played that. We never played that Numenera game again. But yes, yeah. I mean, that is the thing about the Vengeful arc, right? You have to land it on the day that that the Vengeful character is present for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Which is also why sometimes it's useful if you can get more of the players involved in the Vengeful enemies. If you have a player who just can't show up for weeks, and you need to wrap this up, if they're okay with it, they can just have the rest of the players deal with that Vengeful enemy. Or the vengeance enemy and go from there.
Oh man, I can't imagine the Vengeful character being like, well, you guys finish him off. Like, no. Like,
yeah.
I can see some other characters missing that week.
Yeah.
But it's got to be like the Vengeful character's day.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yep.
And,
all right.
As Andy said, sometimes if you have that day where that person's not going to be around, that's a good time for a flashback session.
Yep.
It's like, while we prep for the next time when vengeance will be theirs, what happened back 6 months ago when you guys were da 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 da, you know?
No, I'm talking about like it's been 2 months and it does not look like Vengeful character is going to make it back for another 6 months.
Oh no, I'm saying that if it's a one-time thing.
Oh no, one-time thing you don't do that. No. Yeah, one-time thing is definitely a good time for a flashback or a side story or, you know.
Cool. All right. Well, let's do the thing in the conversation corner. Yay. So, the Marvel folks did a thing with Lego where they said, okay, based on these new variant characters from Loki and What If, we're going to put out a bunch of custom minifigs for some of these characters. So they put out a set of 12 characters, but they did them in random packs.
Mm-hmm.
And random is just so annoying. So it's like, oh, buy a bunch of these and then see what you get. Well, I bought 10 of them. And out of that 10, I got 4 versions of the zombie Captain America, 2 of the Spider-Man. It's like, okay, there's 12 of them. I want all 12. So after 2 rounds of buying a bunch of them and not getting all of the characters and having a shit ton of doubles, I'm like, all right, who's got these on eBay? All right, this guy's up $6. Okay, I'll take that. Oh, this one's $12. All right, I'll pay $12 for it. What the hell? Yeah. Considering what I've been paying for the packs. I'm like, all right. So I just went on eBay today and I bought the rest of the ones that I needed so I could fill out the
That's what I did. I bought a set of 16, which was the max you could buy from Lego at the time when they came out. And I got 5 Gamoras. The one character that's really not that interesting, I got 5 of her. I didn't get any of the ones I wanted. I didn't get Loki. I didn't get Sylvie. I didn't get Captain Carter or any of that. So I did the same thing you did. I'm like, well, time to buy a bunch of just but I have some we can do some swaps if you want. So
well, now I went out and I bought the rest of them. So now I don't have anything. I won't have anything that I'm missing. So but
that's cool.
But if you have use for more zombie Captain Americas, I'm sure you can have some of my zombie Captain Americas because I have no need for multiples of those. So so there's that. I also, because I was out looking for those, I jumped on the opportunity to, because I'm a Lego VIP member, I got a shit ton of VIP points because I've been buying the big sets and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent some of my VIP points, got a $20 gift card and put it towards buying the Captain Carter What If kit, which is Captain Carter, Red Skull, and the Hydra Stomper with Steve Rogers.
Oh, sweet.
So I got that eventually showing up. So looking forward to that. And the Captain Carter figure, there you go. The Captain Carter figure looks a little different than the one from the minifig multi-packs. So
yes, the one that comes with the Hydra Stomper is the one from the episode where the Hydra Stomper shows up.
Yeah.
The one in the minifig pack is the one from episode 9 of What If.
Okay.
Where she's got the remember how Cap's costume gets upgraded through the series?
Yes,
to the
there
movies?
you go. That explains
hers. She's wearing basically wearing the Endgame Captain America version of the Captain Carter uniform.
Yeah.
She's supposed to be. That's her. She's paired with the Gamora wearing Thanos armor.
Oh, I forgot. Not everybody's caught up on What If. Sorry, Andy.
Sorry.
Not huge spoilers, but
yeah.
All right. We played NBA Night's Black Agents. I can't word today. Wording is hard. Oh, there's got to be a better way. I think I'll do a podcast because I can't speak. We did a bunch of prep for a kind of almost like a heist that we're gonna do. We're gonna do an infiltration on a facility. So far, we've only had one brief exposure to what is potentially going to be a vampire to our characters. We know it's a vampire, but the characters don't. We've got a little bit of like, it looks like a duck, it talks like a duck, it walks like a duck. It's got to be a duck, right? But we haven't had that moment where like we're faced full on with like this guy just rolled into the room, killed like 16 people, and blood dripping from fangs and stuff.
I mean, you should hope the hell not.
Yeah. But that moment is coming. So that's like the moment in Night's Black Agents when you have that first combat where you're like, all of a sudden the person's bouncing off the walls and you can't get a shot off of them because they're superhuman. It's like we had a tiny taste of it. So looking forward to when we hit that moment, because then that's going to be the epiphany for my character, who is going to take the hunter. That's not the name of it. There's a drive. Slayer is what it's called. That my sole goal is going to be eliminating vampires from the world once I know that they're actually in existence, which I'm like leaning that way like right now, but so that's going to be good. As I said up above earlier in the show, I'm watching Community. I'm a few episodes in this season 2 now. They're having a lot of fun with the writing in this show. So very much looking forward to seeing where it goes. Because like Jerry said, there's people from Rick and Morty involved with this, and there's people, the Russos, and the characters themselves are interesting characters, and Abed is a lot of fun. I love that character. But yeah, and then the cameos. Season 2 starts first class of Anthropology 101, and you get Betty White, and I'm like, get out, Betty White. And then she freaking kicks the shit out of Jeff Winger. I'm like, yes, that's what I want to see. Good stuff. So that show's great. The Lower Decks season finale was last week. So good. And
yes,
the complaint that some of the naysayers have is like, all it is, there's no Star Trek. It's just a bunch of Easter eggs for other shows, other Star Trek shows. And I'm like, the finale for this season has some Easter eggs in it, but it's a full-on Star Trek episode packed into 22 and a half minutes. And it's like glorious.
It's actually quite amazing how that show can flip the switch from, hey, it's like a funny Easter egg show, to holy shit, this is a full-on Star Trek episode.
Yeah.
Like
so
that
good.
Is it, and it works.
Yeah.
Like it totally worked.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I thoroughly enjoyed it. If you
and ends
seen
with
it,
a huge cliffhanger.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else saw this, but Will Wheaton, of course, a huge Star Trek fan because, he grew up in Star Trek. And he does a show called The Ready Room, where he basically does previews of episodes coming up. He does interviews with cast and crew and writers and stuff. And he totally nerds out over this whole thing. Well, the animators for Lower Decks, they went and they drew a Lower Decks version of Will Wheaton as if he was an ensign on the Cerritos. Not a Wesley Crusher, a Will Wheaton. And he revealed it today on Twitter or somewhere. I think it was on Twitter. But yeah, he's so now he has an official piece of art. not official. I mean, a piece of art from the artists of the show of a Will Wheaton in Cerritos ensign gear.
I now require the Traveler to return Will Wheaton to the Cerritos for like 20 minutes of a future episode. Like,
oh my God,
I am going to absolutely 100% need to see Wesley Crusher appear.
Yep.
On the ship. That is a now, like, that is a that, and I need to see a Captain Harry Kim. Right, that's the other.
Yeah, that would be good too.
Captain Harry Kim would be the other thing I need to see. Or God, God rest his soul, a Lieutenant or Captain Nog.
Yeah.
Would also be a
yes.
Yep.
Oh.
All right, so that's TV stuff. As we mentioned, we started a new season of Minecraft. Is this what, season 7? Or was it 6?
6, I think.
And as Phil said, there's a bunch of stuff that we had to get rid of because it's not compatible with the newest version of Minecraft. So learning some new stuff and getting back into the groove, I had to completely relearn because it's been so long since I played Minecraft, all the Valheim I've been playing. I keep using keys from Valheim in Minecraft and going, why isn't this working? And
yeah.
It's like, and then I went out and I was doing some exploring, and Jerry will appreciate this. I totally Valheimed my exploration. I hit the coastline and I just ran up and down the coast. Because that's the first thing we do when we find a new island is we circumvent it on the coast, and then we go to the interior and we close it off. So I was running the coastline. And I totally Valheimed my architecture, Jerry. When we're done with the show, we're going to jump on. I'm sure you're going to jump on Minecraft, right?
I would definitely. I got to get my body back. So.
Yeah, there you go. So maybe I'll help you get your body back, but then you have to come visit Logan's Peak and see how I Valheimed up my architecture. You'll recognize it instantly.
Oh dear.
All right, so to wrap my thing up, I've got another plumbing visit this week. I had them when they were out for fixing the bathroom plumbing. I had them replace the kitchen faucet, and when they replaced it, we discovered that this brand new kitchen faucet was leaking. It was dripping. Leaking isn't the accurate word. It drips, and apparently there's cartridges inside the handle area that where the water flows through, and there's something wrong with those brand new cartridges. So Moen sent me replacement cartridges, and as part of that transaction, I signed up for like their Moen newsletter or whatever. They made me like a premium member because of having a problem with a brand new product, and they gave me a discount code. So I bought a new faucet for my small bathroom and a new shower head with a removable shower head, because right now the shower head in the big bathroom is just on the wall. It's just there, and I'm used to having one that I can take off and move it around and stuff like that. So I bought a new one of those that has a magnetic connector, so you don't have to like slide it into that clip or anything like that. You just hold it up.
Yeah, that's cool.
But that's also going to get me another like 2 or 3 or 4 inches of height on that shower head.
Nice.
Which it's not too short right now, but to properly get the top of my head, I do have to lean back a little bit or hunker down just a little bit. So this will give me a few extra inches there. So I've got a plumber coming out on Thursday to put all of that stuff in and get that taken care of. And I'm still waiting to hear back from Lowe's about my new closet doors. I think they're going to be in the first week of November, which is roughly the same time frame that supposedly the new sliding glass doors are going to be ready. So the interior door is no big whoop, but that sliding glass door in the first, second, third week in November, sometime between now and Thanksgiving, I'm going to have a big hole when they take the old one out and go to put the new one in. That's going to be that's going to be more than a hoodie day, I think. Unless we get one of those warm snaps where it's more than, 40 degrees. In November.
Seriously, time's running out on those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's all of me. Phil, what's up with you?
All right, let me check. You covered a bunch of these, so I'm going to truck through them as fast as possible. What If? Awesome. Lower Decks? Amazing. I'm nearly done with season 8 of Blacklist. Super tense. I started getting really anxious over lunch today while watching an episode, and I was like, oh, I'm not anxious because there's anything wrong like in my life. I'm anxious because I'm watching this show. That season's turning out to be really good. 2 weeks ago, not this past weekend, the weekend before, Jerry came over. We watched Hackers. C'est magnifique. Love that movie.
Oh, so much fun.
Forever love that movie. Also that past weekend, I hit up Trader Joe's and bought a bunch of fun food, including my pumpkin spiced bagel and pumpkin spice cream cheese, of which I know Bob bought the same.
Yep.
We also had fried ravioli that night for Hackers, and I bought some of that delicious Mandarin chicken. Playing the new Minecraft, talked about that. Built Minecraft Legos on Columbus Day. Jerry had given me a set that had the pandas, because pandas.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, I got to sit and make this now. So I knocked it out on Columbus Day. It was a lot of fun. Picked up a PS4. Our good friend Glenn had got a PS5, had a PS4 laying around. Was very generous in its price. So I picked it up, brought it home, and got rid of my Xbox 360, put in the PS4. I bought 2 games, but he also gave me a few games. So I bought Horizon Dawn Zero, which is supposed to be like the game for PS4. And I played the beginning part of it. It's fucking amazing. I'll talk about it more in future episodes. I also bought Wipeout, and you're like, what's Wipeout? But I'm pretty sure Wipeout is the game in Hackers that Kate and Zero Cool are playing in the club.
Interesting.
It's that racing game, that hover racing game. I believe I heard that's an early version of Wipeout. So I bought that. Thought that might be fun. And I got a couple of other, and like I said, I got a couple of games from Glenn. But anyway, it took me a couple of days. I actually got to put in place, loaded and everything else. And it took me like 2 more days. Like it wasn't until last night I actually sat down and got to play it. Had a little bit of a COVID scare when Dante got my son got a little bit of a cold, but he got rapid tested, or he didn't get rapid tested. He got a PCR test. It turned out to be fine. Just actually got a cold. He's doing fine. So, almost was like, wow, going to have to lock down again, but didn't. We played iHunt the week before. We played Night's Black Agents. Both of those games are going well. Both of them involve vampires right now. So I'm like, kind of feel like I'm not exactly playing the same game because they're 2 very different games. Different. But they're both very enjoyable. I'm actually remembering how much I love running NBA. Like, love running this game. Having so much fun actually putting it together, like the missions together and stuff. So we can talk about that more in the future as well. Going to turn it over to Jerry.
All right. What If, of course, good. Finished season 3 of Discovery. Loved it. Looking forward to season 4. Got to the end of season 3. I liked almost everything about it, so it was really good. Night's Black Agents, it's been a lot of fun. I enjoy spy stuff. I enjoy the fact that it's a good game, and Night's Black Agents also hits out on one of the things that I like in my role-playing games, and that is that it is a teamwork game. You rely on your fellow teammates to do shit. Like, my character is an explosives expert. My job is blowing stuff up. I know about buildings and that. This week's game was about exploration, so my character was more of a backup. It was just fun to hang out and be the backup in the thing and not have to rely on all my skills. Got to play Vaesen with GM Glenn Seiler. Still a very good dark game. We're infiltrating an inn, and it is turning out not to be the villain that we thought it is. Vaesen's interesting because you're basically hunting monsters, but you don't always defeat them by sheer brute force. Like you might encounter a vengeful half ghost, half lobster killer spirit, and the way to defeat it is to like bury the hair from a righteous person under the inn kind of thing. And so a lot of it is going to be figuring things out as you go. So it's very exploration. It's a lot of fun, but it's Scandinavian horror by the people that brought you Tales from the Loop. So it's a good game. Last week I did my 5-day, 30-hour class that I teach on pesticides. It's been really interesting. We had a really good class of people. They were attentive. They were fun. It does mean that I'm on for like 9 hours. I'm not just on my feet, but I am the focus of attention for 9 hours straight. It's exhausting, but a lot of fun. Hackers was fun. I haven't seen Hackers since it came out. It's a fun movie. It still holds up. It's a lot. It's exciting. It's cool. And I really enjoyed it. Last two things. I am a big fan of 66 Batman. I love the Adam West Batman. I love the movies, love the TV show. It is still my favorite Batmobile. And this year, Lego put out a minifigure scale Lego Batmobile 66. And you get Batman and the Joker, and it is the Cesar Romero Joker, because if you look at the Joker minifigure, he's got the little mustache, because Cesar Romero would not shave his mustache for the show, so they just dusted over it. And it's brilliant, but it is straight out the 66 Batman. Bob, it's an inexpensive set. If you like Batman 66, it's worth picking up the set. It's a lot of fun to build.
I'm going to have to toy with that idea, especially since you get Cesar Romero Joker. Romero Joker is best Joker. Yes, I will die on that hill.
I won't argue with you on that. And I broke down. I was doing something else some night, and I decided I was going to watch. I watched the 4-hour cut of the Snyder Justice League. Wow, it's well, you know what? They improved on a few things by getting rid of a bunch of plot lines that were just horrible. But they added some stuff like Darkseid and his gang, and they just look like early 2000s era CGI. They're really badly done. And they redid the reason I mentioned this, it hit on something that made me think about the difference between the CGI and the DC movies and the Marvel movies. And that's that they redid Steppenwolf and they gave him more spikes for some reason, which is weird. But I realized that he no longer even looks like the actor playing him. He looks just like a CGI video game character. You know, people made fun of Thanos and the kind of purple grimace look, but you can still just see Josh Brolin under that CGI. You know, you can see all the Marvel villains, even the ones that are exotic looking. You can still kind of see the CGI. You see the actor underneath. With these, they didn't really even. I don't know why they bothered having actors in the first place, because for those things, for like Steppenwolf and Darkseid and all that, because they don't look like there's a person there. They just look like somebody put a bad special effect on screen. But that being said, if you enjoyed any part of the original Justice League, there are things about the Snyder Justice League that really tie things together. There are some storylines and plot lines that got brought up in the original movie that went nowhere because Whedon came in and just threw them out the door. So I would say if you didn't enjoy the original Justice League, don't bother watching any part of this. If you found some things you liked with Justice League, it might be worth the 4 hours to see what the original intent was, and also to see the groundwork of where they're going with the next step of Justice League. There is some weird stuff in there. It's very Snydery, but it was fun. It was. I went into it knowing that it was not going to be good, and so with that in mind, it wasn't as horrible as people had said. But it was fun. But I mean, let's face it. If you got 4 hours, there are better ways to spend. It's 4.5 hours long.
Yep,
it is. I did it while building the Batmobile and a couple other Lego sets. I just wanted something on that I didn't have to pay much attention to. But like I said, if you found things you liked in Justice League, they do some interesting things in there. And they get rid of a lot of the stuff that was cringy. Like if you saw, they got rid of the entire plot line with the one Russian family that for some reason is living in the demilitarized zone that has to get rescued. So, Jared Rasher said you could watch it in black and white. That actually might have made it look better. I think some of the special effects might have looked better if it wasn't. But you get a lot more Ben Affleck Batman, which I liked. So yeah. Anyway, it was a big chunk of the day, and it was not a waste of time. It was just interesting. So I'll say it's better than the original. So that's it for me. So that's pretty much what I did this week, the last 2 weeks. So why don't we jump to the Patreon shout-outs?
Yeah, let's wrap this thing up. So thank you very much for being our patrons. Jared Rasher, who's sitting in the chat room right now. Jen Pixelscapes Gagney. Jim Fitzpatrick. Joseph Peralta. Carl Halprin. Michael Draper. My Brett. Not my personal Brett. Someone's Brett, though. Ninjabi. Yay. The Rainmaker, Tony. Yay. And Rory McLeod. And thank you to everyone for listening and being in the chat room tonight.
If you are free on Tuesday evenings, normally at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. the Queen's time, you're welcome. Come join us live on Twitch where you can chat with other awesome listeners in the chat room for life and ask us the occasional question while we do the show.
And if you can't make the live show, check out our podcast each week wherever you get your podcasts. And take a listen to some of the other shows of Misdirected Mark Network, such as They're a Super Geek, Mastering Dungeons, Bonestone Obsidian, The FM Gamers, Panis Talking Games, The Gnome Cast, Yahoo Hustle, The Lounge, Bonus Experience, and back episodes of She's a Super Geek. You should also check out our sibling podcast, Tabletop Bellhop, The Knights of the Night, and the always amazing Gaming and BS.
After you have cornered the focus of your vengeance, and before you deliver your absolute final vengeance, take a selfie and then send it to us on the emails at mmp@misdirectedmark.com, or hit us up on Twitter. The show, the network, is at Misdirected Mark. He's Robert M. Everson. He's GM Gerrymander. I'm DNA Phil.
Awesome. If you like what we do here and on the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, you can support our Patreon campaigns. MMP, Mastering Dungeons, and Pandas Talking Games are at patreon.com/MMP. Zhangu Hustle is at patreon.com/Zhangu Hustle, and Bonus Experience is at patreon.com/Bonus Experience. Patrons of MMP, Mastering Dungeons, and Pandas Talking Games get access to the after show, pre-production show notes, musical parodies, the Bamboo Lounge, and other special releases.
This has been a Misdirected Mark production. The media arm of Encoded Designs. Mic drop.
We out.
Oh.